the date that was scheduled for preliminary examination and we're ready to proceed.
People are, yes, Judge, thank you.
Yes.
Any preliminary matters?
Judge, I only have one preliminary matter. It's really an evidentiary matter. I have marked at this moment what is proposed People's Exhibit 8 and 9. Just for the record, People's 8 is a flash drive with an accompanying 902 Michigan Rule of Evidence 90211 certification, medical records from Sparrow or University of Michigan Health Sparrow, whatever it's called now. And then People's 9 are excerpts from that exhibit. So pursuant to Rule of Evidence 90211, the people move as a self-authenticating document for those respective admissions. I have other exhibits marked, but I'll just lay foundation as necessary.
You want to respond?
No objection for very same purposes only.
Sounds good. Are you publishing them?
I'll use them there, and when I get to them, I can use them. If that's
Sounds
okay,
good.
Judge.
All right, any other preliminary matters?
Nothing from the people.
I'd ask for sequestration of witnesses. Also, I've been informed that my client can't use a pen. I guess I'd ask the court permission that he be able to use a pen so he can communicate with me.
Yes, he can use a pen. What kind of, is there something special about that pen?
They're not, inmates are not supposed to have them. They can only use them in presence of the attorney to sign it and give it right back to them.
No, they can
He
use
had
it.
it over here by himself.
Yeah, he can't have it over there.
Oh, I didn't know he picked it up.
Right.
I had it sitting here
Yeah,
for him to use.
That's fine. Yeah, he can have it while he's there.
Thank you.
How many witnesses do you have?
I'm approximating 5 to 6.
Okay, so are they officers or?
Yes,
Okay, sequestration order is granted.
and I have people have no objection to that.
Okay,
And I'll go retrieve my first. People call Officer Nicholas Zuber.
you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Think you can have a seat. State your first and last name and spell both.
Officer Nicholas Zuber, NICHOLASZUBER.
Okay, so you can proceed.
Sir, are you employed?
Yes, I am.
How are you employed?
With the Lansing Police Department.
How long have you been in the Lansing Police Department?
Just over 10 years.
What is your current assignment?
My current assignment is to the Special Operations Section.
And what does that entail day to day for you?
Day to day, it entails working plain clothes, plain vehicles, specifically narcotics trafficking.
I want to direct your attention to the specific date of November 21st, 2024. Do you recall working on that day?
Yes, I do.
Specifically around the time of about 11 and 12 in the 11 in the morning and 12 in the afternoon. Were you working on that specific day at those times?
Yes, I was.
And what were you doing on that day and within that window of time?
I was working plain clothes, plain vehicle. I was on my way to an unrelated investigation regarding narcotics.
During your shift on November 21st, 2024, did there come a point where you were traveling in the area of West Miller and Coach Light?
Yes,
All right, what part of the city is that? Actually, what is that within the city of Lansing?
yes, it is.
What part of the city is that?
It's the very southern part of the city.
And that's within Ingham County?
Yes, it is.
And why were you traveling in that area?
I was headed to an unrelated investigation, that was just a road I took to get there.
Okay. And if you could tell the judge, please, while you were in the area of West Miller and Coach Light on November 21st, 2024, what, if anything, you observed or caught your attention, please?
Yes, so as I was driving down Miller Road, approaching Coach Light, I began to hear a series of what sounded like, in my experience, gunshots. That directed my attention to the intersection of Coach Light and Miller. When I got a little close to the intersection, I saw a small black SUV with both front doors open, and I observed two black males with firearms shooting at a vehicle and house on the east side of the road.
Can you approximate how far away from the intersection of Coach Light and West Miller you were when you first heard the sounds of what you suspected were gunfire?
When I first heard the sounds, I would guess approximately 50 yards.
Okay. And I think you said as you approached the intersection, you observed some additional, or you made some additional observation. What did you do after you made those additional observations?
Once I saw all of that, I got on the radio, I called out my position and what I was observing. I went just past the intersection, just out of eyesight, so that I could turn around and get a better eye and possibly follow the vehicle.
Okay. Is it fair to say that whatever you were going to initially, you stopped that direction of travel and your attention was diverted to this circumstance?
Yes, correct.
When you turned back around, take us from that point. What did you do after that, please?
Right as I was beginning to turn around, I saw that same small black SUV come out to Miller Road. It then went westbound on Miller Road as I was turning around. So at that point, I caught up to the vehicle so I could grab the license plate.
Okay. Could you describe, I know you said it's a black SUV. Do you recall make, model, or anything else?
I believe it was a small Nissan SUV. I don't remember the plate number off the top of my head, or pardon me, it was a Lexus SUV, but I don't know the plate number.
Are you sure of the make? I know you said Nissan, now Lexus.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not positive. It's been a minute. At the time, I just had small SUV and I grabbed the plate number.
All right. And I think you said a second ago that you don't recall the plate number.
No, I do not.
So if you were to review a report regarding the make of the vehicle and the license plate number, would that help refresh your memory?
Yes, it would.
Carter, on the first page of his report. May I approach this witness?
Yes.
Officer Zuber, I've underlined, I know there's going to be a lot of markings, but I've underlined two sections of your report. If you can review that to yourself and look up to me when you're done, please. Reviewing that, does that help refresh your memory as to the make and license plate?
Yes, it does.
All right, as to the license plate number, you recall the license plate number?
Yes, it was EWN. I can't recall exactly the numbers on it.
Okay.
I was looking at the make on that.
All right, and I'll jump back to the make and we'll circle back to the numbers. Do you recall the make of the vehicle now?
Yes, it's an Audi.
All right, and then do you want to review your report to refresh your memory as to the numerical or the numerals in the license plate number?
Yes, please.
Reviewing that, does that help refresh your memory a second time?
Yes, it does.
All right, so we had EWN
5458.
So I want to, and you followed this vehicle?
Yes, I did.
And how far did you follow this vehicle?
I followed it over to the intersection of Waverly and Miller.
And how far is that from the point where you sort of initially first observed it and first started following it?
Maybe a quarter mile, if that.
Okay, and what ultimately, or what caused that you following it to end?
I pulled off just for safety reasons. I had gotten the plate for it. It was leaving the city, and I knew there were multiple subjects armed in there. And it was just inside, so.
And you were unmarked
Correct.
and no lights?
Correct.
All right. So I want to back up now to some of the observations before you started following the vehicle, okay? So this is back to a location near Coach Light and Miller, correct?
Yes.
All right. And this black Audi, it was on which street, Miller or Coach Light?
It was on Coach Light.
Okay. Do you know what direction it was pointing?
It was facing south.
Okay. And is that facing Miller?
Yes, it is.
All right. And you observed two individuals?
Yes.
Could you describe them? Anything you remember about what they were wearing, what they looked like?
I could tell that they were black males. They appeared younger in age, possibly 20, so they were wearing masks and black and dark clothing.
Okay. And when you say masks, are we talking about what we commonly refer to as a COVID mask or a medical mask or something like what we wear in the winter?
More like a winter mask.
Okay. And as it relates to the black Audi itself, actually the two individuals in relation to the black Audi, did you see them these two individuals get out of the car? Or were
No.
they already out before you saw them?
They were already out before I saw it.
Okay. And did you see anything about the car that gave you any indication where these two individuals emerged from?
Yes, both of the front doors of the vehicle, the front driver and the front passenger doors were open.
And you described the sound of suspected gunfire even before making that intersection. What, if anything, did you observe consistent with gunfire when you sort of made contact or saw down that intersection?
When I saw the individuals, they had firearms in their hands and they were still actively shooting at the house. So the fire continued.
So each individual had their own respective firearm,
Yes.
one or more than one. So one person at a time, did they have one gun or more than one gun?
I only saw one with each person.
Okay, so a total of two different guns.
Yes.
And as you made the intersection, it's your testimony that you saw them actively shooting where or what?
There was a U-Haul truck on the street that was parked right in front of a house, and they were shooting. It appeared in the direction of both the house and the U-Haul.
Where was this house in relation to the intersection of Coach Light and Miller?
It would be to the northeast of the intersection.
Okay.
So just, yeah, it was on Coach Light on the east side of the street.
And are we talking the first house, third house? Do you know how many, I guess, addresses in from the intersection it was?
I'm not sure exactly. I would say possibly around the third house.
Okay. In the time it took you to pass the intersection and see those individuals actively shooting, turning around, that vehicle has now left the scene or is leaving the scene of the shooting.
Correct.
All right. And that's when you picked up follow the vehicle.
Yes.
After you stopped following the vehicle, did you return back to the shooting scene?
Yes.
Okay. What, if anything, did you observe when you arrived back at the scene?
When I arrived back at the scene, I saw that the U-Haul truck parked out front was riddled full of holes.
Anything about the residents?
Not that I can see.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Prosecutor?
It's Officer Zuber.
That's correct.
Officer Zuber, my name is David Carter, I represent Mr. Glasgow in this matter. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. If there's a question you don't understand, please let me know, and I'll rephrase that. Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
And I only have a few questions. As far as this, you said you heard what sounded like gunfire that drew your attention to this area, correct?
Correct.
Do you know how many gunfire shots you heard?
I could not say. It sounded like they were shooting in at least an entire magazine.
Okay, and you indicated that there was two black men and by a SUV, a black SUV, correct?
Correct.
And the front doors were open, correct? Could you see inside the SUV?
Just the front.
Okay. They had tinted windows, correct?
I believe so.
So you couldn't see if there was other passengers in that vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Did you see anybody outside that the gunfire was directed towards?
I did not.
And when you went back to the scene after you pulled off for your safety, correct?
Correct.
And were you the first officer on that scene then?
I believe so, yes.
And was that scene then taped off?
Yeah, I had left the scene before they got to that point. Shortly after I got there, road patrol arrived, uniforms did, and it took over.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
No further questions.
Thank
Or no
you.
additional questions, sorry.
Thank you, Officer Zuber.
Thank you.
You call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. Sorry, the people had a subpoenaed witness I was unaware of. I was addressing just
Yeah, I saw him.
at the
Reach out.
conclusion of that. My apologies. All right, I intend to. Your Honor, the people intend on calling Officer Olson next. I'm just gonna go make sure he's out there. If not, I'll switch to a different witness.
Sounds good. Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury.
I do.
Thank you. First and last name is spelled.
Robert Olson, ROBERT OLSON.
You can proceed, thank you.
Thank you. Officer, or sir, are you employed?
Yes, I am.
How are you employed?
I work for the City of Lansing Police Department.
In what capacity?
I am currently in the crime scene investigations unit.
And how long have you worked for the City of Lansing Police Department?
Just over 8 years,
And how long have you been assigned to the crime scenes investigation unit?
just since early summer last year.
I want to draw your attention, please, to the date of November 21st, 2024. You recall working on that date?
Yes,
And was that in the capacity of what your current assignment of crime scene investigations?
yes, it was.
Specifically on November 21st, 2024, were you called into an area at or near 3508 Coach Light Common?
Yes, it is.
All right, and is that address within the city of Lansing,
Yes, it is.
Hingham County, state of Michigan?
Yes, it is.
And why is it you were specifically called to or respond to that address?
For processing of a shooting.
Okay. And did you process that by yourself or with somebody else?
I processed that by myself.
All right. And if you could generally please walk the judge through when you begin to process the scene, what are the steps that you take in order to process the scene?
So in a basic sense, I receive a briefing on the general occurrence of what's happened. That way I have an overview of what's taken place. Then I will take the CSI vehicle, which has all the equipment I need, to that location. I arrive on scene and usually there will be scene security, other officers, or maybe a detective that will be able to give me further information on the scene of where pertinent evidence is that I should look for. Once I have that information, I do a personal walkthrough of the area of the crime, and I will either confirm or locate additional evidence if needed. Once that's done, I kind of have an idea of the area I'm working in. The first thing I will do after that is I will go through and get initial photographs of everything in the scene, and without touching or marking anything. After that, once I photograph everything, I will go through and I will use placards and measurements if needed to locate for camera purposes and also for identification purposes. Placards with numbers or letters. I will go through that systematically to try to paint a picture of where the evidence was located and in the order I located it. Then I will do another set of photographs to locate that evidence. Once I've done my photographs of all of that evidence, I will do another walkthrough to make sure that I didn't miss anything. It can tend to be dozens or even more items in a case. Once I've confirmed that I've got everything, I have my evidence list that I've drawn out each individual item that I've located, where I've located it, and a description of that item. I will collect that in individual baggings for each item as I go along. Once I've collected those items, I will secure them in my CSI vehicle and take them back to our CSI garage / lab, and I will visually and systematically process them through evidence bags, depending on what type of item that is. That will be annotated through the evidence tagging lists that we have and also through reporting.
Okay. That overview that you provided on a sort of a general sense, did you follow those same steps and that same procedure when you responded to the area of 3508 Coach Lake Common on November 21st, 2024?
Yes.
Okay. So let's start a little general and then we'll go through some specifics. So when you're prior to arriving to the address, you've already received the briefing as to essentially what you're going there for.
Yes.
All right. So when you arrive to 3508 Coach Lake Common, describe for the judge, please, what you initially observed when you got to the scene.
My initial observations were a strewn amount of spent ammunition or fired shell casing or fired cartridge casings in the roadway, starting from the area of Coach Lake Commons just north of Miller Road, leading northbound towards a parked U-Haul vehicle, and the casings went from kind of a curbside location towards the center of the roadway, up next to where the parked U-Haul was. And then the U-Haul had very visible and apparent bullet damage along its side and rear. Include some extended damage to a parked vehicle in a neighbor's location and the doorway of where the U-Haul, the house of where the U-Haul was parked from.
Okay. Well, you've sort of answered this, but I'm going to ask it just to clarify. What type, how would you describe the character of Coach Light Commons? Is it a residential, commercial, mix, something else?
I would say it was residential.
Okay. And I think you said you observed a U-Haul vehicle on Coach Light Common parked directly in front of a residence.
Yes,
And that residence, is that the 3508 Coach Light Common that we referenced?
yes,
I think when you said, or when you testified earlier to your general process, when you walk through, when you collect evidence, you diagram this out,
that's correct.
and so you create a sketch of the scene.
Yes,
Did you do that in this circumstance?
yes, I did.
May I approach this witness?
Yes.
I'm handing you what has been marked as people's proposed exhibit 1. Do you recognize the item that I've handed you?
Yes,
Is this a sketch that you created in reference to the scene processing you did on November 21st, 2024?
yes, it is.
People move for admission of people's proposed 1.
Any objection?
No objection for preliminary exam purposes, and to speed things along, I've reviewed most of those photos, so I'll stipulate to pretty much.
I'll reference
what I
them when
saw.
we get as stipulated.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank
So
you.
people's one's a minute.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Mr. Carter. So looking at people's 1, just want to walk through this. You've indicated where Miller Road is located, which is the bottom of people's 1. What direction does Miller travel?
East to west.
All right, so east being.
East being on the right-hand side, and west being on the left-hand side. I oriented with north always being up.
Okay, and so then we have Coach Light Common, the street you've diagrammed that essentially runs through the center of people's 1,
Yes,
and it runs north and south.
yes,
All right. And now on the scene diagram, there are a number of little circles. What are those circles? What do those circles signify, please?
they signify the item of evidence that I've collected, and I will indicate by that item number, and then I will circle it to separate it from any other items in the diagram.
Okay. And then the square or sort of rectangle that is up here, you've labeled that in what?
As a U-Haul.
All right. And then you have another rectangle that's sort of the upper right-hand side with the numerals 3508. That is signify the residence.
Yes, it is.
All right. We're going to walk through what has been received by stipulation as people's 2 through 7. And I'll just start with this. People's 2. This is a photograph.
Yes,
Is a photograph of the scene that you processed.
yes, it is.
All right. Describe for us, please, what we're looking at this photograph.
This is a photograph showing an angle from about a northeast location direction, showing the evidence placard markers in the roadway relevant to ammunition that has been spent and unspent ammunition, as well as showing the U-Haul and the residence that was in front of us.
All right. Now, those yellow placards, evidence tents, this is after you've walked through the scene at least once before you place those placards down and photograph. Is that
Yes,
accurate with your sort of general process?
yes,
People's 3, is this also a photograph?
yes, it is.
All right, and what are we looking at in People's 3? Can you see it okay? Here, I'll stick it.
This is a closer angle. I've moved north slightly just to show continued movement and angles of the scene. This is just a more north. This is a photo of me in a more north position.
From the previous?
From the previous location.
All right. People's 4, also a photograph?
Yes,
And then what are we looking at, or what's depicted in People's 4?
This is more of a direct east location, looking location, showing the residence and the U-Haul along with placards.
All right, so those first three photographs are essentially you walking north of Coach Light Common, and then sort of turning eastward towards that residence.
That's correct.
And still on People's 4, if you can, either point out or describe where on the U-Haul, I think you said in your testimony before we got to photographs, you observed some bullet impact sites. Can you point those out on this photograph? Or at
Yes.
least some of them?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty visible. The dark indicated markers along the side of the vehicle, which I eventually do photograph and put markers on.
But at least on People's 4, they're visually observed throughout that side of the U-Haul vehicle.
Yes,
Moving to People's 5, is this also a photograph?
yes,
One from the scene?
yes.
And now what are we looking at People's 5?
I am standing directly next to the U-Haul along the curbside facing the residence, and I took a general overall photo of the residence.
Okay. People's 6, the photograph?
This is the entrance of the residence as well as showing impact point.
Okay, so if we were to compare People's 5 and 6, they're essentially just you moving from roadway mailbox location to the front door of the same residence.
That's correct.
All right. And you said in People's 6, you can visually observe a bullet impact site. Can you at least point that out for the
Yes,
judge?
it's in the lower right-hand portion of the door.
Okay. And are there numerals above the door?
Yes,
What are the numerals?
3508.
And then finally, People's 7, is this a photograph as well?
Yes, it is.
And then one from the scene that you processed?
Yes, it is.
And what are we looking at in People's 7?
A more close-up view of that same doorway, showing a better outline of the impact point for the bullet.
Do you recall off the top of your head how many fired cartridge casings you located when you processed the scene at 3508 Coach Light Common on November 21st, 2024?
If I were to guess, it would be in the realm of about 17.
Okay. But you don't know off the top of your head.
I do not.
Okay. In order to answer that, as part of your scene processing, you create a sort of an itemized list of the items that you found and located and seized.
I do.
Reviewing that, would that help answer the question I asked, the precise number of fired casings that you located?
Yes, absolutely.
May I approach this witness?
Yes.
All right, I'm handing you pages, just as if you want to just go ahead and review that to yourself and then just look up to me when you're done, okay? Reviewing that, does that help refresh your memory as the precise number of fired casings that you recovered while processing the scene?
Yes.
How many?
At 17.
Okay. And I'll take that from you. Do you recall the caliber of those casings?
It was sorted It was a combination of 7.62 by 39 and also 9mm looters.
Okay, so two different calibers
Yes,
of the 17, two only divided into two different groups.
yes.
Okay. And as part of your processing of the scene, did you document the precise number of impact spots that you observed on the U-Haul vehicle itself?
I had, yes.
Do you recall the precise number that you documented off the top of your head?
I know.
All right.
Sorry.
Would that be something that you would have noted in your report?
Yes.
All right. May I reapproach this witness?
Yes,
This is on page 2 of this, or I bracketed a portion of your report. If you could just review that. Does that help refresh your memory as to the number of impact spots on the U-Haul that you documented
Yes.
and how many?
16.
Were there other items of evidentiary value that you collected outside of the fired casings that I've asked you about?
Yes.
Clothing, other articles, things of that nature?
A shirt was turned over to me, I believe, or some kind of top. It's clothing. Unspent ammunition. Bullet. There may have been other items. I can't fully-
Okay, but that's common. Outside of things I've asked you about, there are other things that you collect
Yes,
in addition to the photographs and the sketches that you create.
yes,
Is that fair?
yes.
Okay. Did there come a point where, pause one. Did there come a point where you, moving away from 3508 Coach Light Common, that you processed or a vehicle in reference to this investigation?
Yes,
All right. Specifically, as a CSI officer involved in this investigation, did you process a black Audi vehicle?
yes.
All right. Where did that occur?
That was at the CSI garage for the incident.
Okay. And do you know under what authority you had to process that vehicle? Is that a part of your briefing?
Usually that will be covered under either a search warrant or consent search.
Okay. And that's information that's provided to you, not something that you obtain yourself.
Correct. That's, yeah, that would be-
All right. And I'm going to ask you some specifics regarding the vehicle itself. So if you remember them, just or not, just let me know. We're talking about an Audi. Do you remember? That's the make. Do you remember the model?
I believe it was a Q5.
Okay. And do you know what model year it was?
I don't.
Okay. I don't mean to pick on you. If I were to ask what the VIN number was, would you have any?
I'm not that good.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember the registered owner?
I don't recall exactly.
Okay. All of those things that I just asked you, some of them kind of unfair, particularly the VIN number. Would those things have been documented in your report when you processed this vehicle?
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
reviewing that, would that help refresh? And let me ask one more. Do you remember the license plate number from that vehicle?
I do not.
Would that also be something that you would include?
Yes,
Reviewing your report, would that help refresh your memory as to some of these things?
absolutely.
All right. May I reapproach?
yes, you don't need to ask.
Okay, sorry.
You're 2 steps away.
Sorry, Judge, I'm just in the habit. Oh, I'm sorry, and I didn't hear it. Let me,
Yeah.
I bracketed
Yeah,
a portion
I was
for you.
just-
Yeah, I
yeah.
know you were.
I have no objection if he just reads from the report, the VIN number, the registered owner and the license plate.
Okay, and I'll actually trim it down. What is the license plate number of the black Audi that you processed?
In phonetic, it is Edward William Nora 5458.
Okay, who was the registered owner, or what individual was that vehicle registered to?
The registered owner that I was provided with was Pharrell Morgan.
And then could you just give me the last 4 of the VIN for me, please?
Yes, it is 0531.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Carter. When you processed the black Audi, what, if anything, did you locate in the car that you noted or seized as evidentiary value?
Yeah, I don't recall anything specific at the moment.
Any articles of clothing, if you remember?
Oh, there were, I believe it was Nike masks. Black Nike masks.
And when we say masks, are we talking about what we commonly refer to as COVID masks or medical masks, or something we would wear in the winter?
It would be something you wear in the winter. It's, I believe, like a sports model mask. It's where
Okay. Do you recall the specific location of, actually, strike that, let me ask this first as sort of foundational. You said you found masks, and you're saying it in the plural sense. Did you find more than one?
Yes, I did.
All right. Do you recall the precise location of each mask that you found within the black Audi? If you don't remember, just let me know.
And not, I mean, I know in a general sense, but I don't want to speculate.
Okay. Would that be something, the precise location of those masks in the Audi, would that be something that would be in your report?
Yes.
Reviewing your report, would that help refresh your memory as to those locations?
Yes, sir.
All right, I've bracketed a second portion of your report. If you just want to review that and then look up to me when you're done. Reviewing your report, help refresh your memory as to the precise location of those masks.
Yes.
All right, and if you could tell the judge where you found each one of those respective masks, please.
The first mask I located on the driver's seat. The second mask I located in the passenger glove compartment. And the third mask I located on the seat, the center seat of the rear seating area.
So it's the vehicle's it's an SUV, small SUV.
Yes,
So there's a front driver and front passenger and just a single back seat.
a single row, yes.
All right, and then you're saying the third mask was in the center of that back seating area.
Yes.
Thank you, and I have no further questions for Officer Olson.
Just a few questions, Officer Olson. As far as the 3 masks, were they all Nike masks?
Yes, they were.
And they were, do you know if they were put in evidence bag and processed sent to the lab?
I did bag them. I don't know if they have made it to the lab for processing yet.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Can you redirect?
None from the people, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Olson.
Thank you, Judge. The people intend to call Trooper Andrew Golden next. I'll just notify the court, not that Trooper cares, nor do I think the detective wants me to say. Detective Zolnai, who's been with me to my right, just stepped out to use the restroom, but I anticipate he'll be back again. I don't think that you neither noticed nor cared, but I just wanted to.
I did notice you went out. I didn't know if you went to get your
That's fine.
witness or whatever you have to do, but.
I probably
Thanks,
could have just
Sharon.
said that and nobody would have been any the wiser.
Who is it, Trooper?
Golden. And he's walking in as we speak.
Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury.
I do.
And Trooper Golden is common spelling, correct?
Yes.
You can proceed when you're ready, Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. So are you employed?
Yes,
How are you employed?
Michigan State Police.
And in what capacity?
My current role, I work, Secured Cities Partnership. We work in conjunction with the Violent Crime Initiative.
And in what way do you sort of pair up or work with the Violent Crime Initiative team?
My role on the team is fully marked police presence. BCI is the surveillance, unmarked aspect of the team, and the troopers are the marked that will initiate the traffic stops, initiate contact.
Okay. I'm going to draw your attention to the date of November 22nd, 2024. Were you working on that day?
Yes,
And were you working in a capacity that is consistent with what you just described your sort of general assignment is?
yes.
All right. And what, if anything, were you doing specifically on November 22nd, 2024 that was connected with the Lansing Police Department Violent Impact or Initiative team?
Yes, so the Violent Crime Initiative team was conducting surveillance. The apartment complex is called the Wave, I believe. It's Waverly, Michigan Ave area. During that time, while BCI was conducting surveillance, I was staged in the area to respond if the suspect in the crime that was being investigated, if he was located. My role was to respond and initiate a traffic stop if that individual was located.
Okay. And so when you're testifying, what you said, if that individual is located, that is information that's being filtered to you, not because you're not doing surveillance. Is that accurate?
Accurate.
All right. Did there come a point on November 22nd, 2024, where you were alerted by members of the Lansing Police Department or anybody associated with the BCI or Violent Crime Impact team that the suspect they were looking for was in fact observed and located?
Yes,
All right. And that was information that was filtered to you.
yes,
Did that ultimately prompt you to be involved in a traffic stop?
yes.
All right. So let's with that sort of foundation, let's back up. Take us from the point where you were provided information that a car needs to be stopped.
Yes, they advised an individual matching the suspect's identification, Trentarian Glasgow, entered the passenger seat of a blue Dodge SUV.
Okay.
They advised that vehicle was traveling southbound on Waverly Road, at which time I began to travel to the location that was being called out, which was, by the time I caught up to the vehicle, I believe it was near Waverly and Sheffield. I observed the vehicle activate the brakes, observed the driver's side brake light not turn on, at which point I initiated a traffic stop for the defective driver's side brake light.
Okay. So back up, you said Waverly and Sheffield.
Approximately is where I first observed.
All right. Is that area within the city of Lansing?
Yes,
And Waverly's actually the line between Ingham and Eaton. Correct?
correct.
All right. So we're at least on or near Ingham County.
Yes, sir.
And so you not only had information regarding a potential occupant of this blue Dodge Journey, but also observed a traffic violation independently of that.
Correct.
And then you started the process to effectuate a traffic stop, right?
Yes.
Take us from that point for me, please.
I was in my fully marked Michigan State Police patrol car. I initiated a traffic stop for the defective brake light by activating my overhead emergency lights, which were fully operable, functioning. After I activated my overhead emergency lights, the vehicle continued to travel without stopping. To further alert the driver of the vehicle, I activated the patrol car siren in conjunction with the overhead emergency lights. The vehicle continued to travel. We traveled all the way to Waverly Jolly area where the blue Dodge Journey pulled into the Sunoco gas station. After the vehicle pulled into the Sunoco gas station, it continued to slowly travel, at which point unmarked BCI members pulled in front of the blue Dodge Journey and it eventually came to a stop there.
Okay. What did you do after that?
I positioned my patrol car on the front passenger side of the vehicle to prevent the vehicle from fleeing.
Okay. And did there come a point where you made contact with any individuals within the vehicle?
Yes, so I made contact with the front seat passenger, Jim Glasgow. He was placed into handcuffs, I believe, by Officer Bush of UCI.
Okay. Did you make contact with him contemporaneously with Officer Bush, or how did that sequencing go?
Yes, so the way my patrol car was positioned, it was up against the front passenger side door, so he's unable to exit the vehicle. So while I had to back up my patrol car to allow Mr. Glasgow to exit the vehicle, at which point Officer Bush was making contact with him, handcuffing him, and then I walked up in contact with Mr. Glasgow.
If you if you saw Mr. Glasgow again, would you recognize him?
Yes.
Did you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you please point Mr. Glasgow out and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing for me, please?
Yes, he is seated to the right of his defense, wearing a green jumpsuit, a white undershirt.
You're gonna let the record reflect that Trooper Golden has identified Mr. Glasgow.
Any answer?
No objection from our exam.
So noted.
What role did you have after the traffic stop? And I guess I'll describe, even though it didn't sound like you were really involved in the detention of Mr. Glasgow, but after Mr. Glasgow was taken into custody, what'd you do then?
Actions after Mr. Glasgow was taken into custody, I began an investigation with the driver of the vehicle. She was handcuffed. I placed her in the front seat of my patrol car, read her Miranda rights, and conducted an interview. Referenced the fleeing elude aspect.
And that driver was female.
Yes.
Did you search the vehicle at all?
No.
Was that done by other members of the LPD VCI team?
Yes.
All right, so that you were not involved in that aspect?
No.
Thank you. No further questions for Trooper Golden.
Officer Jam.
No questions.
Thank you, Trooper Golden.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. People are going to call Officer Tyrese McClinton. Should be relatively short.
This is my space. What's that? Yeah. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury.
Yes.
Thank you. State your first and last name and then spell both.
Tyrese McClinton, Tyrice, McClinton.
You can proceed, Counsel.
Sir, are you employed?
State of Atlanta,
And how are you employed?
police officer.
And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
4 years.
What's your current assignment?
Patrol.
And on the date of November 21st, 2024, were you working on that day?
Yeah.
And your assignment is in patrol division?
Yes.
Did you have the occasion to respond to the area of 3508 Coach Lake Common,
Yes.
that city of Lansing, Ingham County?
Yes.
And why were you dispatched to that address on that specific date?
4 shots fired into a building.
When you arrived, did you make contact with anybody?
Yes.
And do you recall the person you made contact with?
Yes.
What was that person's name?
David King.
Okay, and why did you make contact with the person name identified as David Cheney?
After, when we arrived on the scene, myself and another officer cleared the residence to make sure that no one else was in the house or anyone was harmed.
Okay, can I pause you right there?
Yeah.
What is it that you saw when you first arrived that sort of prompted you to go through the house to make sure nobody was harmed?
There was a bullet hole in the front of the house.
Okay, and the house we're talking about, is that the 3508 Coach Lake Common address?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Sorry, I know I paused you.
That's fine. So we did a sweep and I located David Cheney in the bathroom of the house.
Okay, what was Mr. Cheney's condition that you observed when you made contact with him inside of the house?
He had a gunshot wound to his leg.
Okay,
You said to his leg?
Yes. Or thigh area.
Thank you.
bleeding?
Mildly.
Okay. Certainly in need of some assistance.
Yes.
All right. Do you know if Mr. Cheney ended up traveling to the hospital?
Yes. He did.
Sparrow,
Yes.
or what we know is Sparrow?
Yes.
And did you at some point travel to Sparrow
Yes, I
as
did.
part of your response to this shooting?
Yes.
And did you have contact with Mr. Cheney there as well?
Yes, I did.
And did you recover some personal effects from him as part of this investigation?
Yeah.
Do you recall what those items were?
His cell phone
Clothing?
in the clothing bin.
I have no additional questions for Officer McClinton.
Officer McClinton, is it?
Yeah.
My name is David Carter. I'm going to ask you just a couple questions. Did you have consent to enter into 3508?
Consent from.
I mean, from the homeowner, or did you just burst in?
Yes, I did have.
Did you knock on the door? Did someone answer the door? How'd that work?
Yes, they did. The mom, I believe David was outside and gave us authorization to go in.
I'm sorry.
The mom to David
Okay.
gave us consent to go into the house.
Did they tell you that their son was in the house?
Not at the time.
All right. And when did you announce yourself when you went into the house?
Yes.
And what was the response of Mr. Cheney?
What was the response?
Yeah,
There
did he
was no-
respond?
no.
Okay, did he appear to be hiding?
He was in the bathroom, so I don't know if that's what he appeared to be doing.
Well, you were announcing yourself, right?
Yes,
And you were asking for a response, correct?
correct.
And there was no response,
There was no
correct?
response.
And did the mom tell you he was in the bathroom?
No,
And when you got into the bathroom, was he fully clothed?
yes,
Okay, he didn't switch clothing or anything like that?
I know.
Okay, and was he in pants or shorts?
Pants.
Did you, when you said you noticed a bullet wound to his thigh, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is this something you saw through the pants? How did you see that?
Well, it's standard procedure to like check over victims. He was kind of like limping, so
Okay.
I had him pull his pants down. Noticed it.
All right, and did you see a bullet hole in the pants that he was wearing?
I don't recall.
All right, thank you. I have nothing further.
You redirect.
None for the people, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer McClinton.
Judge, if I may, just for a moment, I want to make sure I understand the court's timing and give you sort of a preview where I stand.
Okay.
If I heard you correctly this morning, 11:30 or 11:25, something like that was essentially my line in the sand. Is that accurate?
For today, yes.
Okay. It's sort of out of order. I intend to call the detective Zolnai to my right. I imagine that will likely take up the remainder of the time we have today, which would leave me with only one additional witness that I intended to call, which was Officer Aaron Bush. And so that's how I plan to, might end a little bit early than the 11:25, but that's sort of where I just want to make sure I had that timing right.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. With that, Judge, the people called detective, oh, I'm sorry.
If I can have 1 second, Ben, I'm going to pay my meter.
Oh, off the record. You know how those meter maids are. Car might be getting towed right now. Okay. Back on the record. Right, call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. People call Detective James Online.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Can I have a seat? State your first and last name is Gobo.
Name is Bowman, Jambs. N-A-I.
You can see.
Your Honor. Sir, are you employed?
I am, sir.
How are you employed?
With the City of Lansing Police Department
And how long have you been employed with the City of Lansing Police Department?
since 2017.
And what is your current assignment?
I'm currently assigned to Investigations Division of Detective
And how long have you been so assigned?
since the summer of 2024.
Prior to that, what was your assignment immediately preceding becoming a detective or investigations?
Prior to that, I was assigned to the Violent Crime Initiative for approximately 3 years.
I am going to draw your attention back to around middle of November 2024, specifically November 21st and 22nd of 2024, okay? At that time, you were assigned in investigations?
That's correct.
All right. And were you or are you assigned as the lead detective a shooting that occurred on November 21st, 2024?
That's correct.
Specifically a shooting that occurred around or near 3508 Coach Light Commons, City of Lansing.
That is correct.
All right. Let's first start with, as the detective, when you're assigned a case, what are some of your initial steps?
The initial steps is talking with the patrol officers that were out there, find out who the victim is, find out what crime actually occurred, see what they're not getting outstanding witnesses. On top of that, I look at physical evidence. We have usually a team of detectives that come in, so then I'll start assigning or asking that individuals from our detective bureau make contact with witnesses, do canvasses for the crime scene, try to locate any of the evidentiary items of value, and then start establishing a timeline and fact pattern that took place on that particular day, that particular crime.
And in your role as the detective assigned, did you travel to the specific address of 3508 Coach Light Commons?
I first traveled to Sparrow Hospital, and after the fact, I circled back.
Okay.
I detected that scene first.
All right. And why did you go to Sparrow first?
We had a victim that was located at Sparrow Hospital.
And did your name identify the victim?
I did, it's David Ching.
All right, we'll get back to that in a minute. After leaving Sparrow, you then went to the address of 3508 Coach Light Commons.
I did circle back this.
All right, and that address is in the city of Lansing,
That is,
Ingham County, state of Michigan.
that's it.
Can you describe the character or the nature of that part of the city that surrounds or is near 3508 Coach Light Commons, please?
Sure, it's the south west side of the cityscape. Just south of that, Woodland, north of that, in that particular area, north of Miller, it's residential.
And describe the address, the structure that sits at 3508 Coach Light Commons for me, please.
3508 is a single family residence, it's a ranch. It's positioned on the east side of the road, north of Miller.
What, if anything, did you observe when you were at that address, 3508?
There was a scene of shooting, as evidenced by the shell casings that were in the street.
When you arrived, was CSI processing? What was the stage of investigation?
I
at that
don't
point?
believe that they were present at that time, whether it was before or after. Again, I went to the Sparrow Hospital first and came in after the fact. So other detectives were there for the course of the initial investigation.
Okay. So I'm going to circle back to something we started with, your first step, which was to go to Sparrow. and you made contact with a person at Sparrow that you described, provided the name and described as a victim. Did there come a point during your investigation where you, as part of your investigation, secured the medical records of the person you made contact with at Sparrow on November 21st, 2024?
That is correct. I made contact with David Cheney and David B, had him sign a medical release form to receive his charts from Medicare, which he provided, or received rather, on the 21st following issue.
Okay, and then from that point, did you work with Sparrow Hospital or the University of Michigan Health System to obtain the actual records?
Yeah, after I received the signature on it, I then submitted it to receive.
In front of you already received in evidence, we have People's 8 and People's 9. Although they've been identified for the record. People's 8 is what? Is a flash drive?
That is correct.
And that contains the full medical records of Mr. Cheney that you obtained from the University of Health Sparrow.
Yes, sir.
And off the top of your head, approximately how many pages of records encompass?
If I were to guess, I probably can't, because they're very lengthy.
Okay.
I'd be happy to review and do that, but certainly more than, I would say more than 50 probably.
Okay.
Or maybe that'd be a ballpark again, that's just an approximation, but quite a few.
All right. And then the document that's sort of with that thumb drive is a certification from Sparrow that you obtained from University of Health System for those records.
That's correct.
All right. Now, People's 9, are these, which has also been received, are these just a small 5 pages of the overall medical records that you obtained from Sparrow regarding Mr. Cheney?
That is correct.
All right. So that's what I want to focus on at the moment, okay? So in People's 1, I'm going to direct your attention to, is there a page 1 that's listed that you have is the 5 pages?
That's correct. Yes, sir. It's exhibit 9.
Okay, so it's the one with the actual sticker on it.
Correct.
All right. So what is labeled page 1? At the bottom of the page, does it have a name identification as to the patient that these records pertain to?
It does.
And what is the name?
It's, Cheney, David Lee, so David Cheney.
All right, if you could, just for staff and the court reporter, could you spell out the name for us, please?
Yes, sir. It's David, David, Lee, Lee, Cheney, Chaney.
Thank you, sir. On that same page, page 1 of People's 9, I'm going to direct you all the way to the top, or near the top. Do you see a heading that says reason for visit?
Yes, sir.
All right, and immediately below that, do you see what I'll describe or call a subheading that says chief complaint?
Yes, sir.
Is that followed by a single sentence that describes the chief complaint or the reason Mr. Cheney was in the hospital in this particular instance?
It does.
All right, and what is noted as the chief complaint or the reason for the visit?
It says gunshot wound in parentheses, PT, short patient. So they were in a U-Haul van, drive-by gunshot, hit above left knee.
Okay. On this page 1, does it have, in fact, what I'll do is I'll draw your attention back down to the bottom right corner. Below the name identification for Mr. Cheney, is there a admission date that is noted?
There is.
What is that date?
11/21/2024.
So November 21st, 2024.
That's correct.
I'm going to flip you to the second page of People's 9. Is that listed as page 9
That is correct.
of the medical records? And then do you see a heading near the bottom of the page, heading with the letters HPI and a colon?
Yes.
All right. What is listed or contained below that heading HPI?
It says David Lee Cheney is a 21-year-old male, no pertinent past medical history presenting to the emergency department for a gunshot wound. Patient states that he was in a car when shots were fired. He fell to the ground on concrete. He has complained of pain to the lower to the left lower extremity.
All right. I'm going to move you now to the third page of People's 9. Is that listed as page 29 of the medical records?
That is correct.
All right. And on this page, does it have sort of at the very top or near the top, the University of Michigan Health Sparrow logo
It does.
with a heading, an overall heading of trauma history and physical consult note?
That's correct.
All right. I'm going to draw your attention now to about the middle of the page. Is there a subheading that says history of present illness?
Yes, sir.
All right, and that would be essentially what HPI stands for. Right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Could you read the, let's see, the first full sentence of HPI? You don't need to read that whole paragraph.
It says the patient is a, in this parentheses, MAIT, 21-year-old male. Another set of parentheses that say NFIT, S, P, MAIT, GSW to the left 5.
Okay, and then if you could, the second, that second sentence.
Patient was in the back of a U, in parentheses, NFT or 2M, U-Haul, separated by parentheses. U-Haul van when an unknown person fired multiple shots into the back of the van.
I'm going to draw you now, your attention now, or if you could please flip to what is the fourth page of People's 9. Is that listed as page 32 of the medical record?
32, yes.
All right, and what is depicted on page 32 of the medical record for Mr. Cheney with the admission date of November 21st, 2024?
There's a wound to his mid to lower thigh region. It is labeled left anterior thigh.
All right, and is there a photograph within the medical chart itself?
That's correct, there is.
And then what, if you could move to the very next or the last page of People's 9, is that page 33?
Yes, sir.
All right, and what is on page 33?
It's another image closer in than the previous, again showcasing the wound to his left.
When you made contact with Mr. Cheney at the hospital, were you able to visually observe the injury that he had sustained?
It was wrapped, I believe, at the time of contact. I don't recall seeing it in person without bandage on it.
Okay, so you don't know, or you weren't able to see it in the same way that it's depicted in those last 2 pages of the
Not
chart?
really, Paul.
All right. As part of your investigation, did there come a point where you either had contact with or reviewed the reports associated with Officer Zuber?
Yes.
All right. And what information, I guess I'll ask if you can remember, did you speak to Officer Zuber directly or did you review his reports or both?
Both.
Okay. What information as it relates to this investigation did you, what investigative leads did you get from Officer Zuber and or his reports?
Initially, the vehicle description, the black SUV. Furthermore, the identification of the license plate that it was bearing, which produced the registered owner of that vehicle. Also, his observations of 2 individuals outside of the vehicle firing weapons towards the U-Haul van and a residence. A short description of those individuals, doors that were open upon the vehicle, and then the direction of travel after Officer Zuber followed them.
Okay. And let's talk about the vehicle. What information did you learn about or obtain about the vehicle that sort of directed you in your ongoing investigation?
The vehicle's registration was that to a Pharrell Morgan. That was the bigger piece of what we gleaned from it. It was from him observing license plate.
And why was the registered owner a bigger piece of it?
That's who we would eventually contact from.
So it was effectively a potential witness.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if you remember, what are the descriptors of that vehicle involved? Make, model?
Make model 2014 Audi Q5 black in color. Can be described as a, I wouldn't just say SUV, but certainly a crossover.
Okay. And did there come a point where you did in fact make contact with the registered owner, Mr. Morgan?
Yep.
All right. And were there other investigative leads in addition to speaking to Mr. Morgan that you followed up on and developed as this case progressed?
There were several.
Okay. Can you characterize what some of those are without getting into some of the real specifics?
Yes, we rely upon the Violent Crime Initiative to monitor social media accounts. So we utilize social media accounts, search warrants for both cell phones and infotainment centers to vehicles, and then NIDAN leads, which is the comparison between shell casings located on scene and shell casings in given gun, determine whether or not that would indeed be the crime done, the firearm that was utilized at the time of crime.
Okay. And I'm going to circle back to a couple of those a little bit later. Did there come a point during your investigation where an individual was name identified as potentially being involved and or a witness, that being Trentarian Glasgow?
Yes.
Okay. And it was it through a collection of some of the general investigative leads that you talked about?
Yes.
All right. Did there come a point where you ultimately made contact with the person name identified as Trentarian Glasgow?
Yes.
You recall where that was when that first contact was made?
I first made contact with him at the operations center on Wise Road, for Lansing Police Department.
Okay, was he in custody?
He was.
Okay, and do you know what date this occurred?
I believe it was the 22nd of November 2024.
Which is the following day, the day after this shooting.
That's correct.
All right. And do you know the circumstance? Did you become aware of the circumstances upon which Mr. Glasgow was in custody or arrested?
I was briefed on it, yes.
All right. Was that in connection with a traffic stop that you heard Trooper Golden testify to? I think not the last witness, but the witness before.
That is correct.
All right. But were you present for that traffic
I
stop?
was not.
All right. Now, did you conduct an interview with Mr. Glasgow?
I sat in as a secondary on it, yes.
Okay, so you were at least in the same room with Mr. Glasgow.
That is correct.
Who conducted the interview?
Detective Christy Perry.
Okay, so the two of you are in an interview room with Mr. Glasgow at the Operations Center on Wise Road.
That is correct.
If you saw Mr. Glasgow, would you recognize him? If you saw him again, sorry.
Yes,
Did you see him in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you please point him out and describe an article of clothing for me, please?
Mr. Glasgow, sitting at the council, he's wearing a green top with a white t-shirt on.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that Detective Lomai has identified Mr. Glasgow.
No objection for preliminary exam purposes.
So noted.
As part of this investigation, you talked about social media, cell phones, infotainment, and on top of an array of other things. Was there ever a cell phone associated with Mr. Glasgow seized in this case?
Yes, sir.
Do you know when that item was found and seized?
On the 22nd of November, 2024, about crime initiative in contact with Mr. Glasgow, and one of the officers seized his cell phone at the time of contact.
Is that during that traffic stop?
That is correct.
All right. And do you know if that phone was searched in any way?
After a search warrant was obtained, it was searched.
Okay, so you answered the next question I was going to ask. So the phone was searched and it was searched pursuant to a search warrant.
Yes, sir.
Did you prepare that search warrant?
I did.
All right. And now you talked about, as part of your investigation, infotainment is a potential investigative lead. what is infotainment or infotainment systems?
As we move into advancements with vehicles, oftentimes for ease, the manufacturers will allow us to connect our personal cell phones to the infotainment center. That would be a shorthand, or excuse me, longhand for stereo system, or whatever device they have within inside of that vehicle that controls a myriad of controls from that vehicle. You just you can open doors through it, unlock the vehicle, start the vehicle, and connect it via music to whatever media player you have on your cell phone. You can also make phone calls from it when it's connected, and you utilize a Bluetooth connection, allowing you to speak on the vehicle's speakers rather than your cell phone, hands-free. That's a shorthand of what an infotainment center is.
Okay. And are you able to extract or obtain information from a vehicle's infotainment system?
Yes,
And did you take that investigative lead in this case?
I did.
What vehicle?
The Audi Q5 registered to Ron Morgan that was observed by Detective, excuse me, Officer Zuber
Okay.
at the time of the shooting.
And how is it, what, under what authority did you search the Q5 for information off of the infotainment system?
I came to search warrant for it.
And from that point, what are the steps?
We utilize, at least I utilize this particular moment, the Michigan State Police Computer Crimes Unit. They came out, the vehicle was located in a tow yard at the time. They came out, executed a search warrant by plugging into the entertainment center and extracting the data from it.
Okay. And you were provided the data that was extracted from that Audi Q5 from the Michigan State Police.
That is correct.
You had the opportunity to review it.
I did.
All right. From a foundation standpoint, as part of your investigation, did you, I think you said one of the steps you take as an investigator is to speak to officers, review information, and create a timeline of events. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. And based on your investigation, what is the timeline as far as when this shooting occurred?
Approximately between the hours of 11:50, 11:58.
In the morning?
Correct.
On what day?
November 24th, excuse me, 2024.
All right. Say the word if you didn't.
No, this.
Yes.
All right, I'm handing you what I believe has been received by stipulation as People's 10. Mr. Carter will correct me if I'm wrong on that. But do you recognize what is depicted in People's 10?
I do.
Okay. How is it that you recognize what's depicted in People's 10?
This is a device connectivity report that was obtained from Mr. Glasgow's phone that was located on his person.
Okay. So, all right, I want to lay a little more foundation just for the record. So People's 10, is that a single sheet of paper?
Yes, sir.
A document?
Yes, sir.
All right, and it's from an extraction of Mr. Glasgow's phone?
That is correct.
All right. And that was something that you worked on as part of the investigation in this case. In addition to searching a car, you searched Mr. Glasgow's phone. I think you touched on that a little bit ago.
Yes, sir.
All right. And what is the process for getting an extraction from a phone?
Once you receive a search warrant for the phone, we have an investigative analyst team that's part of our investigation division, Detective Bureau. I will provide them with a search warrant as well as the phone located within the evidence department. They have a set of protocols they take to initiate extraction utilizing a computer program. Upon conclusion of that, they will provide me a report and then a copy of the extraction. The extraction, I read through a particular program called Celebrate.
Okay. And those extractions, are those the information from cell phones oftentimes voluminous?
Okay.
The extractions and the information that you can view, is that oftentimes voluminous?
Yes,
So this single piece of paper that I'm handing you in People's 10 isn't the full extent of the extraction of Mr. Glasgow's phone.
that is correct.
All
Those
right.
extractions are quite large.
This is just one aspect of a larger extraction.
Yes, sir.
All right. So in People's 10, what did you discover as it relates to Mr. Glasgow's phone and the time or timeline of events of this surrounding the shooting, please?
Some of the areas in which you can observe inside a cell phone are cell phone calls, text messages, photographs, videos, and so on. One that I looked at with the device connectivity. It tells me when these devices are connected to other medias, whether it's a Bluetooth or what have you. In this particular document, I noted that Mr. Glasgow's cell phone is connected to an Audi MMI, which is a multimedia interface with a distinct 4-digit characteristic after that. And 11/21/2024, it was connected via Bluetooth connectivity at 10:06 in the morning.
Okay, so I want to unpack a few things that you said. I know there's sort of abbreviations. So you, through People's 10, discovered that Mr. Glasgow's phone was connected to a specific device.
That's correct.
And it, on the extraction, it's listed as Audi MMI 0531. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, a moment ago, you said MMI stands for what?
Multimedia interface.
What is that?
Again, the infotainment center. So it's the device within a vehicle that you connect your phone to.
Okay. Now, the numerical, the 4 numbers that follow MMI 0531, through your investigation, did that have any reference or connection to any other thing that was?
It did have
followed up?
significance, yes. That 0531 are the last 4 digits to the 2014 Audi Q5 that was observed on scene of the shooting.
Okay, registered to Mr. Morgan.
That's correct.
All right. And now you said Mr. Glasgow's phone connects to Audi MMI starting what time?
It listed as 10:06 and 32 seconds AM on that date.
On November 21st.
That's correct.
Is there a point where it disconnects?
There is a disconnect line as well. That is on 11/21/2024. And that is at 12:04 and 48 seconds PM.
Okay. And from People's 10, is it fair that what this information is telling us is Mr. Glasgow's phone is connected to Mr. Morgan's black Audi Q5 between 10 a.m., 10:06 a.m. and 12:04 p.m.?
That is correct.
And specifically, it disconnects approximately 15 or 14 minutes after the reported shooting of Mr. Cheney.
That is correct.
Judge, it's 11:17 and I was about to get into a new topic. Would you like me to pause?
That might be the best idea,
Okay,
since we're gonna have to come back anyways for cross.
correct. So I thought it was a good breaking point. I know I said I might pause a little bit early, so
Sounds good.
thank you, Judge.
So you have the remainder of Detective Zone 9, their classics, and then of Detective Zone 9, then one other witness.
Correct, Officer Aaron Bush.
Okay, let's get a date.
Can Officer, or I'm sorry, Detective Solomon, I stand up. and-
Absolutely, we're also. For Mr. Carter, February 14th, does that work for you, Mr. Carter and Mr. Stevens?
I have a prelim running in Eaton County.
It's all day prelim.
No, it is not. It's it starts at 9. Yes, it's 2 hours.
What is it go to? That's a Friday. Yeah, wow. Must we have the afternoon? I don't know.
Outside of it being Valentine's Day, I'm available, Judge.
He's probably not. We'll just find it. February 28th.
Sorry, I'll be in Oregon. He's unavailable.
No.
He's in Oregon.
Oh, okay, yeah, sounds good.
Last week of February.
The whole last week.
If
You
you're,
can't cancel
if you're looking into March, I'm scheduled to start probably a 2.5, 3-week trial with Judge Aquilina on March the 4th. Or the 3rd, one of those two, I can't remember. But that, essentially that first week of March.
I start a capital trial in Clinton County on the 19th of March.
So March is pretty much a wash. For at least until the last week. So it sounds like.
You said we couldn't do the afternoon of the 14th?
We good.
Oh.
What do we have on the 14th? The afternoon?
It's okay, if it's okay with Mr. Carter and Your Honor, I'm good.
Well, Silverthorne has an exam and he said it was supposed to last all day. So I was trying to see if we can get him in. All day exam from Silverthorne? The co-defendant? Murder. Okay. Is it another murder? They said it's gonna take all day though? Wait, so Silverthorne has all day on the 14th. Scheduled at what time? After the PCCs, so 9:30. We can do that. I mean, gotta break it up. We're gonna break
The
Silverthorne's up.
14th,
The 14th at what time? Do 2, yeah, it's 2 work.
Fine, still fine with me. Yeah, Carter.
Should be enough time.
Yeah, the 14th at 2 and Silverthorne has 9 to 2.
Judge, do you want me to retain the exhibits
Yes,
or?
please.
Okay, may I approach to retrieve
Yes.
them? Thank you. Judge.
No problem. I'll get your notice to appear and any additional matters for today's work.
Nothing from the people, Judge, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, made you waste a couple.
It's okay.